What's going on, guys? My name is Witty, and this is episode number 4 of Beginner's Guides. So, in this episode, we're going to be talking about Raids 1, which is also known as Chambers of Xeric, or Cox, or a number of other different things that we're not going to get into because it's not important. Of course, on Runex, in order to start raids, the very first thing that you need to do, well, train your account, but the raids portal is just to the west of the bank. So the bank is right here, obviously, and we have the raids portal right over here. Big, black, red, can't miss it. There's even a carpet, rug, whatever. You're going to use this raids portal to either A, create a raiding party, or B, view invitations if you are not the one that is creating the party. So if you're going with a bunch of friends and you're learning that way, you're probably going to be viewing invitations, which will open a little box like this. You will click on the invitation it'll show a username of a player who has invited you. You'll click that, you'll accept, and then you're going to open the raid interface back up. For our sake, we're going to be doing a solo run, and you can ignore my gear. I'm mostly just running gear like this to make it easier on myself to record and walk you guys through what to do in each room. Because ultimately, raids can be completed with just about anything as long as you have the time to do it. If you've got nothing but time, you could do raids with a magic short bow. It's really easy to do on Runex, and I'm basically just here to kind of walk you through how to complete each boss, where to stand, and then eventually we're going to take on Olm at the end. So you're going to click on Create Raiding Party. You'll see a menu like this. Of course, today we are talking about Chambers of Xeric at the top here, so no reason to do anything with Theater of Blood. Now, Normal, Adept, Expert, Master, and Grandmaster, you can hover over these to see exactly what happens if you use those difficulties. So you're gonna see this. You see the possible rewards over here. You can hover over those. You can hold control if you want to find out what bonuses there are for each item. But the most important thing is you will see your raiding party at the bottom. Of course, we are by ourselves today, so what we are going to do is click Start Raid. Now you will start in this fancy little room here, and we are going to make our way to this passage just over here. This is where you can go ahead and pot up. This is not what I want my quick prayers to be, so it's probably good to have this set up before you come into raids so you don't have to waste time like I am. We are going to, of course, turn this on, and the first room we get is Vanguards, which is a very preferred room, especially if you plan on using magic inside of Chambers, because you can just kill all three at once and not have to worry about it. Now, the ideal place to stand is up here in the northwest corner. You're going to stand on this very, very far northwestern block. I should probably fight back before I die. Alternatively, you can stand right around here. You can stand basically anywhere that stacks all three of them on top of each other, and it will work just fine for you. Now, essentially what we're going to do is just get these guys down to 0 health. It is as simple as it sounds. However, there is a roadblock along the way. If I can find one of the weaker ones again, I can show you. So 241 health. There is a certain point in health where you will no longer be able to damage the Vanguard you are attacking. And here it is. The Vanguard blocks your attack. It appears this happens at 121 health in a solo. So you will have to switch to a different Vanguard. As you can see in the top left, you'll know that you're targeting a different one. They need to all be at that hit points level, whatever it is, and it does scale based on how many people are in the raid with you and what difficulty you're on. Once you have hit that hit points area, you have to get the other Vanguards to the exact same hit points before you can damage them any further. So you will see here, we will get this second Vanguard down to around 121 hit points, and it will block my attack yet again, which means I need to kill the third one. Now it seems that with the scythe, we have managed to actually get them all below that threshold, so it's not a huge deal. But essentially, this is all Vanguards is. You're basically AFKing in this room. Now, most people will use magic against Vanguards just because of how AFK it is. I use a scythe because it feels faster. It's all personal preference, really. This is Vasa. Now, the only real interesting mechanic to Vasa is that you want to hit and move. Different weapons have different attack speeds, which of course allows you to get 2 hits off at times. However, with the scythe, it is almost exclusively hit once, move once to avoid the damage. As you can see, every couple seconds, one of these will spit out. You can dodge them easily by moving 1 square away. I am doing terrible at it right now while I am talking. Now, the glowing crystals will spawn at about 90% hit points the very first time. You're going to kill these glowing crystals. There are 4 of them, 1 in each corner of the room. Again, you should still technically be moving 1 square at a time to dodge the attacks, but we're not worried about it because we hit high enough with Soul Split that we can just heal ourselves. And once you have all 4 crystals finished, you can go in for the kill on Vasa. A lot of people will Brackish Blade, Bandos Godsword, Dragon Warhammer, whatever spec wep you have to lower Vasa's defense. A lot of people will choose to do that. I of course happen to miss both of mine, so that's fantastic. But it shouldn't be too much of an issue with the scythe. Again, this is entirely possible to avoid all damage if you were to just walk 1 square. That's all you gotta do. Hit and walk. It really is that simple of a boss. Like I said, you will find that a lot of raids on Runex is simple mechanics or AFKing, so alright, forgive me, I did just recently wake up after last night where I recorded everything else, but this is Tekton. So the only thing really different about Tekton is that we're going to be praying melee and staying in melee distance. Tekton is weak to crush, which basically means using a scythe is kind of a bad idea. At about half hit points, Tekton will be invulnerable to attacks, and a couple of rocks will pop up on the map. Essentially, a rock will spawn in the southeast, southwest, and just straight up in the middle of the north. So, like I said, 3 total. And you want to turn your run energy off for this. It just makes it a lot easier. And I'll kind of show you the timing on how to avoid being hit while you're going for the mining. Alright, so the rocks have appeared. As soon as you get hit, you're able to move a square or 2. And then you're going to mine. Auto retaliate needs to be off, and you should be walking. Eventually, these enchanted crystals will be mined. You will get an experience drop. And then we're going to walk across here. So I get hit, I move 2 squares. I get hit, I move 2 squares. I get hit, I move 2 squares. Now the hardest one, of course, is the north one because you have to kind of diagonally walk through him. But you can avoid 100% of all damage on Tekton as long as you pray melee and walk the hits out. It's that simple. He might hit me here. He did not. Okay. So we're going to let him catch up. He hits me, and I'm going to actually just walk 1 diagonally and another diagonally. And he hits me, and I walk 2 north. So this is a damageless Tekton, just like that. We mine the final rock. We can go back to attacking him. And we are going to go for another spec, just to hopefully finish this a little bit faster. We do get it. Now, Tekton can drop the Elder Maul, he can drop an Onyx, and of course he can drop his pet. They are pretty rare, you don't see them too often. You might get an Onyx here and there, but at the end of the day, we're not here for the mini-boss drops. We're here for the end game ones. So, that'll be Tekton finished, and let's try and find ourselves a Muttadile. And this is our best friend Muttadile. He has 2 phases and 2 mechanics, essentially. The orange fire wave that you can see under his belly here means to pray magic, and the green one means to pray ranged. It's quite that simple. The first phase is pretty easy to get through. Once you've gotten to the second phase, which is where Muttadile becomes ginormous and has the same exact mechanics, if you're in melee range, the green attack now means protect melee. If you're at a distance, it means to protect range just as usual. So most of the time, people are going to be using Elite Carols or Elite Torags here. Just remember that and pray accordingly. Because if you're not doing enough damage with a scythe or something like a scythe, a Twisted Bow would work. You're not going to be able to out-heal his damage. So you have to be really careful, and you can kind of see that here. I'm flirting with death. If I was to miss a shot, I could probably die here because he can hit 30s. And there are a lot of times where I will sip a brew while doing Muttadile just to be safe. Muttadile is a very easy boss. It's really just about prey flicking and or DPSing the absolute hell out of him with Soul Split. So if you're capable of doing either of those things, you'll be more than fine at Muttadile. It's really not a difficult boss. And there he goes. So with Muttadile now being done, we go on to Vespula, and then I believe we head to Olm after that. This will be Vespula, which again, I will use the exact same setup, but most people will elect to Blood Barrage here, just like Vanguards. You will stand in this spot here, right beside the portal against the wall, and the reason we do this is because Blood Barrage will target the portal. It will target the Abyssal Walkers that spawn, and they will all pile right here. And it will target Vespula, even though we can't actually damage him right now. It's beneficial to attack the portal and go AFK for a minute or so, and you will come back to a whole bunch of dead things. So, works beautifully. Now, I'm going to kill the Walkers here just to get them out of my way, but we are on to Vespula, and if you have special attack left, this is where you want to dump it. Now, I would not recommend maging Vespula himself because his magic defense is significantly higher than ranged and melee defense are. So, it's definitely better to melee or range him, but if you want to Blood Barrage him for some reason, you be my guest. And we are on to the final 2 rooms, this being the first of those where you are able to fish anglerfish or sharks. If you want to farm some points here, you're more than welcome to. You can trade things in, of course, for potions, food, and all kinds of fun stuff. And the fisherman here will give you noted anglerfish. It is pretty simple. You give him 5 regular, and he gives you 5 noted. So if you want to stock up on anglerfish, this is the place to do it. On to the Olm fight. This is where you want to double check and make sure that you use a super anti-fire and an anti-venom. You can alternatively wear a lava pendant, which will protect you from the anti-fire. You can wear Shazian, which I have in my inventory, that protects you from the anti-fire and the venom. There are a lot of options here on Runex, but make sure you have at least 1 layer of anti-fire and anti-venom. Those things out of the way. The first thing you have to do in Olm is fight this Servant Spirit. It's a spinner from Pest Control, but we'll call it a Servant Spirit like Runex does. We are going to use the exact same prayers, however, we're going to switch to ranged. Now, this is completely optional, however, I would not recommend trying to melee the Servant Spirit, and you will see why. As soon as the lightning starts to come out, it could be extremely dangerous and kill you in a matter of seconds. So we are first going to take out the Servant Spirit, which shouldn't take too long, and then we are going to work on the left claw. The reason we do this is because it disables the lightning. Now, we have the Servant Spirit dead. I am going to put back on melee, and we are actually going to use Shazian because it has a boost against dragons, and we are going to stand right here. Not over here, not over here, right in this square. We are safe from the lightning here, it cannot hit us, and we are going to attack the left claw. Now, it is worth noting if you decide to use ranged in this situation, you can attack the claw anywhere back here and you will not be hit by lightning either. So it is entirely up to you, whichever you prefer. Elite Carols works very well here. Obviously a Twisted Bow works great. A Dragon Hunter crossbow works great. Alternatively, you can use a Dragon Hunter lance. Just about anything will work, and this is one of the few areas in raids, 1 at least, where you will take damage 100% of the time. It just kind of depends how much of it you can mitigate, depending on your gear. So, as you can see, we're going to finish the left claw here, and we can immediately just freely click the right claw because, well, the lightning's gone. It can't really hurt us anymore. Now, this entire cycle, we are going to repeat for a second time, and that will be the end of the raid. It really is that simple. We're going to finish the hand off here. Then we're going to finish about half of the head's health, and the spinner will respawn. We kill the spinner, rinse and repeat, And then we open the chest for our beautiful twisted bow and call it a day. Now, it is worth noting that the hands do not actually have a defense, so using your defense lowering special attacks on the hands is basically a waste. You definitely should use them on the heads just to speed up kill time, but using them on the hands does you nothing. And as you can see in a normal Chambers of Xeric, the head will trigger a respawn of the spinner right around 1,000 hit points. There it is, 735 hit points. We're going to take the spinner out for the second time. I didn't mention this before, but you can actually go for either claw if you're ranging. So we're going to range the right claw first this time with our twisted bow. We're also going to wear Shazian for this because the boost does still apply to damage against dragons, and there's no extra range boost on this set, but it's still really good for using a twisted bow because of the already high hits you can manage. It's extremely effective to add the huge percentage multipliers that come from Shazian. As you can see, we have the right claw down, so we move over here to the left claw and make sure we stay on these back 5 or 6 lines here. And it's essentially AFK at this point because Soul Split is strong enough to keep you alive. You're protecting entirely from the anti-fire. The venom, it barely hits you, so there's really no threat to your life. It is essentially AFK for the majority of Olm, other than the spinner. And because of that, people farm raids on a consistent basis. I know I've had a lot of people that have experience with raids on old school and other servers that aren't one-to-one to old school, and they tend to ask me how raids work on here, and when I tell them how easy it is and how most of it's AFK, they don't tend to believe me, but hopefully this raid shows you that. As we do not get a drop, but almost poetic with a perfect 15-minute run as a solo. This can be done in half that time if you're not walking, through the raid and explaining everything, but essentially 15 to 20 minutes is what you're probably looking at, depending on your gear. It could be a little more, it could be a little less, it's not a big deal. Raids really isn't difficult on Runex, and it's nothing to be afraid of, even if you're a hardcore Iron Man, because you can't actually lose your status here anyways. So it pretty much is AFK entirely. And even if you manage to die, you're losing points and a little bit of drop rate, but it's no big deal. Now, like every other beginner guide, I feel the need to mention when I'm closing the video up that this is essentially just to get the mechanics down. This isn't a walkthrough guide. I'm not explaining gear progression and all that fun stuff, because as not serious as you guys take me sometimes, you really can do Chambers of Xeric with beginner gear. And essentially, the better your gear, the faster the kill times. That's basically all it comes down to. It's possible to do Chambers with a rune crossbow. It's possible to do it with the Dragon Hunter Lance and nothing else. It's very easy to complete Chambers without taking hardly any damage until you get to Olm. And by the time you get to Olm, you can avoid most damage there as well. So it's all about focusing on your prayer switches if you're not in high enough gear to soul split. And if you've got that down, you should be golden. You can definitely solo. I really do suggest soloing to kind of get the mechanics down. You don't lose anything by dying. You don't lose anything by wasting a raid. It's just time spent. And if you're learning, it's not time wasted. So definitely run some solos, run some groups with your friends, run some, 5-man raids with your group Iron Man party. Whatever you decide to do, it's definitely worth learning for that Twisted Bow, Ancestral, Kodai Wand, etc. So get out there, learn yourself some raids, and I'll see you there. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Appreciate you watching it. Deuces.